I am just furious. It's 9:20 in the morning on Monday.
Whoever is doing whatever can go straight to hell.
Call me back now or see me in face, and trust me, you won't want that.
Hey, welcome back to the HOA Show. I am the host, Jason Hurst. We're still talking to Scott about towing. Kelsey, Brian, and Mary are all here. What's up, guys? How we doing?
We're doing great. This is a fun episode.
Yeah. Can I say what up, G-Money?
G-Money.
Yeah.
Who's G-Money?
I don't know what you're referencing.
That's what we used to say when I was in when I first started in radio. That's what we used to say because I was on a hip hop station.
How long ago was that?
A long time ago. Okay,
You're an old
Kelsey.
dude.
We said things like off the hook and off the chain, and and eventually off the hizzy. I have no idea what the hell that meant.
So was your nickname G Money, or did you everyone call each other G Money?
Everybody called each other. What up, G Money?
There was no H Monies or I Monies?
Nope,
No,
just
G.
G Money.
Okay.
I
Everyone
think the
was
G
G-Money.
stood for gangster.
Oh.
Like OG, original gangster. That kind. Oh, sorry, gangsta, not gangster. Yeah, I gotta make sure that I say that.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, shut up, Kelsey. You're young. Okay.
Kelsey's never even heard these words before.
These are new.
Do you know what radical is?
I do.
We used to say that all the time.
In the 80s.
This is
Tubular.
rad.
Tubular.
I've heard it, but
Total-
never have heard
that
it.
was in the context totally tubular. It was
Yeah.
never just tubular. It was totally tubular.
Yes. In the meantime, Scott's over here staring at us going, what the hell are you guys doing? What are you talking about? Like I said, we're still talking with Scott from Beehive Towing. We had so much stuff that we had to split this into 2 different episodes. So let's get right back into it. Brian, you got the first question?
So with homeowners associations, what would you say what's the number one reason for a tow within a homeowners association?
Parked on the street, probably.
Street, someone calls it in, blocking a car, just not.
Yeah. That's 9 out of 10 times is what we end up towing them for, is parked on the street. Yeah, blocking their neighbor, or unsightly, broke down, flat tires, whatever, is the main. Those types of tows happen.
How much of your business would you say comes from homeowners associations specifically, within your towing business? Rough percentage wise, just for curiosity.
Probably 40%. We do a lot with different police entities also. We run AAA also. We do a lot with other insurance entities as well. Parking, it's hard because it's part of towing. I don't see how you own a tow company and you're not involved in parking enforcement,
Sure.
which most towers aren't, and they don't go there, right? But I'm the guy that's like, hey, when I started my business, I want to do everything, and so it's one of those things where you take the good with the bad.
I know when we've looked at different towing companies, just from the property management side, like you said, there's a lot of towing companies, but there's very few that will do homeowners associations specifically, because I think that there's more, I don't know if there's more risk or more emotions that go with it, or the people are more angry because they are a homeowner parked at their home and you towed their vehicle. But we've noticed that a lot of towing companies do not want to touch homeowners associations at all. They'd rather do the businesses, they'd rather do the public impounds or the wrecked cars, but they don't want to touch HOAs. Do you know if that's just a local thing, or would you assume that's probably more of a nationwide thing, that they don't want to touch the privates?
So it's a nationwide thing. I think that there's a handful of companies, and we could probably count them all on one hand, of the tow companies that do it in Utah. And the reason is liability's huge for that. And whoever is doing parking enforcement as a tow driver, like they're the elite of elite tow guys. They know exactly. They're not only a good operator, but they can talk to people too, or diffuse situations or whatever. And obviously there's some that are better than others at doing that. But the reason that all these other outfits don't get engaged is liability and slander. It muddies the water for your business for sure.
So you have to train your guys then how to diffuse a situation, not to
Right.
stoke the fire, so to speak. Like,
Totally.
do you guys do any training for that? Is that something that is part of becoming a tow operator to learn that? I mean, therapy classes. I don't know what the right term is, but
and that's something that we
Mediation courses.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's something that we combat daily as to who would be a good fit for that job. The only thing that we do is we bring drivers in and we train them on regular tows, right? AAA, doing those types of tows first. And then from there, we move them over to the parking enforcement side. Very, very, very seldom do we ever hire someone in the parking enforcement side. And I don't know, I feel like I'm a pretty good judge of character in people being around what we deal with, and if someone has a hot temper or a short fuse, they are not a good option for parking enforcement at all, because let's face it, you'd be in a fist fight every day, every single day. And so we want the calm, quiet, timid tow truck driver. That's what we're looking for.
Do you have to carry?
Preferably big, though.
Yeah.
That helps a lot. That helps a lot.
Do you have to carry liability insurance for that?
So obviously our insurance is very expensive.
Sure.
And that's why we have surveillance, photos, all this stuff. Because probably 7 out of 10 vehicles that we tow claim damage. And so then we become into investigators, and we're viewing photos and comparing photos and doing all our homework on this situation. And I'm a car guy. That's my background. And when someone comes to me and says, "Hey, you dented my door when this vehicle was towed," that's a red flag to me, because I dented your door. Well, no part of the tow truck is ever close to your door. We pick up the bottom of your tires. So if you claimed like front bumper damage, okay, let's look at that. Or rear bumper damage, let's look at that. But hey, you broke my windshield. These are all red flags that we have to investigate on our side and see, because technically at the end of the day, if we damage someone's car, hey, it's going to show in our photos, and we need to take care of that. But if it's just a claim, and through our investigation we find that, hey, there's some red tape here, what they're saying isn't adding up to our photos and then we just basically tell them to go away. I'm sorry, but from what we've found, it doesn't add up. So
the liability's on you. You said that, like, you have to prove your innocence. You're not just presumed innocent. You have to prove it. That's why you have to do all the documentation ahead of time, because 7 out of 10 people, you said, will claim something just to try to get out of the tow.
And at the end of the day, that's what they want is, hey, you damaged my bumper. Just give me my money back and you don't ever hear from me again. Which, if we've really damaged their car, that's not the case. Like I had one of my guys rip a bumper off a Mercedes one time, and it was like $2,400 to get that fixed versus a $200 tow bill. Sure, at that point, I'm like, here, how about I'll give you your money back? You go away, But
that's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
I'll get you a gift card.
Yeah, there you go. So we do deal with that. We're constantly under fire for, the customer of why their vehicle was towed. And then from them again, if there was a damage claim, and then it could be from the HOA, depending what the situation is as to why this vehicle was towed. And then it could be the state, because the state is the one that basically is our boss that monitors what we do. So there's like a lot of hoops to jump through for one tow.
There's a lot of regulation for towers.
Yes, there is
all the way through this state, at least. I assume most states have some regulation on towing, but it's a pretty thick manual of things you can and can't do, and protocols that you have to follow in order to be in compliance with the state. And it's not just the state too, right? Because you guys don't tow in just one city. You tow in multiple cities, and multiple cities can have different regulations on what you can and can't do and how you can and can't do it.
Correct. And that adds fuel to the fire big time, because so now not only do we have the state that regulates us, then we go into a certain city and their rules might be different from the state or added to what the state has. So now we got to jump through their hoops of rules and regulation also. And so that's something that we deal with as a tow company is some of the cities around in this area have different rules and regulations for towing in their city that we have to combat all the time. And so, like, you have to be, like, spot on with running a parking enforcement business. Because if you're not, you're going to be sued, like, continually all the time. So, and even then, when you are spot on, you still get sued all the time. So,
And some cities have made it harder for you to be able to tow. We had a city that we manage a property in, and they passed some regulation where it said that the towers couldn't drive through and tow if someone was not following the posted rules.
Right.
It had to be the property manager or a board member who called that tow in, took a picture of it, called the tow in, and then they could be towed. In order to, we'll call it circumvent that rule, we had a tower who was, we found out was shacking up with someone who lived inside the community. For some reason, we couldn't figure out, we kept getting complaints from everyone in the community. Why are we being targeted for towing? I'm like, you're not, but you guys seem to have a lot of people that are parking illegally within the community. And I just kept getting these emails or texts of these people are parked illegally. Tow them, tow them, tow them. What we found out is the tower was actually shacking up with someone who lived within the community and out the master bedroom window could see the community.
Oh, nice.
And so whenever someone parked illegally, he'd look out the window and go, oh, we got a tow.
yeah.
Go out from his mistress's
gosh.
place, go hook the car and tow it.
Oh,
That was a bad deal. I remember that. That was one of my employees.
Oh.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Is this still a current employee? Is this still,
No.
okay.
That was the end of it. And the sad part is this employee's wife was good friends with my wife, and like we had to break the news. And so that was
it wasn't just a girlfriend; it was a mistress.
It was. That was a bad deal.
all
That
the
was
way
a real bad
around.
deal. And then everything that transpired from that, like, come to find out, I found out that he was, like, driving this lady around in the tow truck with him and her brother, and then telling them that he owned Beehive Towing. And, like, it all rolls downhill, you know? Holy cow. I found out all this drama. I'm like, nope, no more. You're done.
But his towing numbers for a couple months he was on the top of the
solid.
charts.
He was.
He was a rock star tower
Yes.
for a couple of months.
He was
There you
making money for sure.
Outperforming everyone else.
Yes.
go. In many ways. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So crazy.
Okay, so I have another question for you.
Okay.
What is the coolest car that you have ever had to tow?
Man, let's see. We did, actually, this is like 2 months ago. We did a Ferrari that was bright canary yellow that was super nice.
Wow.
We've done a lot of, like, if you're into like street racing and stuff, we've done a lot of really cool WRXs and stuff like that.
I'm guessing you don't ever get to title on those.
I actually did get the title on a really cool WRX that was all like a race car. Like, it was
Yeah.
fancy wheels, fancy exhaust, fancy turbo. Like, it was a cool car.
Yeah.
Oh.
And we got the title on that one.
What do
Oh,
you
wow.
think makes people like just abandon cars like that?
Usually the nice cars are broke down, and they're probably in financial trouble where they're late on their payments anyway. And so when the vehicle gets towed, they assume that the bank came and got it.
Oh,
And so they don't ever even check up on it. And as I mentioned earlier, that 2016 Sentra, I think what happened with that one was somebody like was going to turn it into the bank. And so they told their bank where they would park it in their HOA because it was in visitor parking. And it had a lien holder and everything on it. And the lien holder contacted us 3 times that they were going to come get this vehicle, and they never showed up, you know. And after a while, we just got the title on it, and then it's ours. They're just out.
Yeah.
And so that's what I think happens is vehicles are broke down or they're about to be repossessed, and that's how we end up with those.
Do you do repo work at all?
We don't.
Yeah, okay.
We've dabbled in it a little here or
Sure.
there over the years, but I don't like repossession.
Yeah.
It's even a bigger headache than parking enforcement, I think, and it doesn't pay as well. So yeah, so it's
Before we get to that, we want to talk about our sponsor of the show, Beehive Towing, Salt Lake and Utah County's #1 towing service provider for over 18 years. Affordable rates, 24-hour towing. Their services include auto wreck services, roadside assistance, heavy-duty towing, private property towing. You can check them out at beehivetowingco.com.
Have your guys or guys that you know of ever gotten in fistfights or with customers or employee headaches from the owner of a towing company where you go, why would you do that?
Yeah. So I had, thank the Lord that we've never had anything really crazy happen, but we have had some crazy stuff happen too. I personally, so I did parking by myself for 9 years, and I never had any issues really. Never like had anybody go hands on or anything ever. But I feel like I'm a pretty easygoing guy, and that's probably why. However, one of my employees, he got into it out at the boat harbor, and he basically got jumped by 3 guys, and he's a fighter too, but he had pepper spray, and so he let them all have it.
I love that pepper spray.
But when they jumped him, he had like the boom of the truck down, so it was like a couple inches off the ground. And when they jumped him, he tripped over that, and these 3 guys fell on top of him. And then it was like, just a big ball of people just swinging, and and they're going at it. And he got hurt from that. He hurt his shoulder, which ended up being a pretty big workers' comp claim on us as owners. And so that was a headache. But that's probably the worst one that's ever happened. That, and same guy's the one that got hit by the car in the tow yard. Same guy had been run over out in the same place.
So he just has
Jeez,
really bad luck,
yeah.
is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, he does. Either that, or maybe he kind of doesn't have the right personality for it, and he kind of egged it on a little too, which I could see that happening, and that's part of the reason he doesn't work here anymore. So, yeah. So yeah, that kind of stuff does happen, but that's probably the worst, I think.
What would you say like burnout for like towers is? Because like we've talked about like what burnout for property managers is, and it's relatively short. So like I would imagine in like a more high stress job like that, you actually get quite a bit of turnover in guys that are towing.
We do. For us, it's scheduling. Like obviously parking enforcement, 98% of it happens at night. So we have a night crew that works from 6 at night till 6 in the morning, and then a day crew that comes on then. But the weekends is the busiest time, and so these guys don't get weekends off, and so that's probably the hardest part of that is they get a day off during the week when all their buddies are working still,
Right.
and then the weekends come and they want to go camping or boating or whatever, and they're stuck working, and so we're trying to combat that also in scheduling. That's why we run a couple guys at night, a couple guys during the day, and then that way if one guy's off, we can still do parking. We're just not going to be like all hands on deck, And so, but that's scheduling is #1 killer of that. It's interesting, like also, I'll kind of elaborate on it because it's everyone's question, but these guys that do parking enforcement, they're paid pretty lucrative as a tow truck driver. You think of, what does a tow truck driver make, And these guys that do parking enforcement, they make $60,000-$70,000 a year. They're not dirtbag tow truck drivers, as we're all conceived as, And so for the industry, that's pretty good pay, And so,
Well, and I'm sure, like, obviously with tow trucks, the more you tow, the more you work, the more you make. So
Right.
those guys who are willing to work weekends and are willing to work nights probably make more than the guys who don't want to work weekends and don't want to work nights, is my guess.
yeah, totally. I was just going to say, there's, my parking enforcement guys, they make more money than my regular tow truck drivers. Obviously, the stress is more doing parking. Their risk is more. Everything is more doing parking enforcement, and therefore that's where the pay is.
Right.
And so it's, yeah.
And if you have a mistress in the neighborhood, it makes it easier.
Makes it even better.
Yeah, you're
There you
getting
go.
bonuses
'Cause
on bonuses.
Yes.
Then you're making bank right there, man.
Right,
No
right.
doubt.
Fringe benefits.
yes. So it's interesting, and like with the weather, like I've heard it's supposed to snow this weekend,
Yep.
and so when that happens, we get it from all angles, parking enforcement side, because plows can't come in, but also everyone's sliding into everybody, and there's car wrecks all over the valley. So on a snow day, we're like sleepless nights, totally, and so it's crazy.
So, snowing, you mentioned, is the all hands on deck. Is that a good
Yeah,
all hands
yeah.
on deck, ready to go? Snowing. What are some other ones where you're like, hey, we got to get prepared?
Here we go.
Yeah.
So towing is exceptionally busy in extreme temperature, hot or cold. So obviously in the summertime, we're busy. Everyone's out partying, having barbecues, having their friends over, getting liquored up, and so towing's crazy. Wintertime, snow, ice, all that is crazy. We slow down in the spring and the fall. Mild temperature. It's too cold to have a barbecue outside.
People are behaving.
Yeah. And so, we slow down during that time. So we use that time to kind of recoup and gear up for when all hell breaks loose again.
Yeah, well, and I'm assuming like holidays too are probably super busy. Like you guys probably don't have many Christmases that are off because it always usually snows.
Right. And that's true. We are the guys Christmas Day, we're pulling cars out of the ditch all day long. And Thanksgiving, Halloween, like these guys, they really, I don't know, they're first responders, and they don't get downtime. They don't get to be home with their families, not like everybody else anyway. And
Tip
so
your tow truck driver and give him a good review, right?
Yeah.
Give him
A good review.
Give him a nice Dickies gift card.
yeah,
Have a
there you
Dickies
go.
in your area.
There you go. Totally.
I always say when violation or code enforcement comes through and you see him, make sure you wave with all 5 fingers. We
Yes.
can say the same thing for your tow guy
Yes.
when he comes
Yes.
through.
We do. We get the one finger wave all the time, even when we're not towing cars. Just like going into some communities, people hate you, and you roll through and you get egged, or the one finger salute or whatever, and it's, man, we're not doing nothing today. Yeah, we might have towed your car last week, but we're not doing it today.
Not today.
And so we actually had-
Two-finger wave.
Finger wave.
Hey, what's up, man? How we doing? Peace. There you go.
So yeah, so that does happen.
All right, I'm sorry, Scott. I'll stop one finger waving at you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's my fault.
And any advice for homeowners? I know we touched on this a little bit earlier. I'm going to come back to it. Advice for homeowners other than paying attention. Like what? Because this is HOA Homeowners Association more specific. Is there maybe top 2, top 3 things that homeowners could do to help themselves not get towed?
Yeah. I say be involved. Be involved in your community. A lot of times when we tow people, it seems that there's, we didn't know, and usually they're the renters of, somebody. And so I say get involved in your community. If you don't like something, then combat that, make change or whatever, and just be involved, because then you're going to know what's going on and where to park and where not to. That avoids it all. Just be hands-on.
Do your homework about your community.
Yeah,
That's what I would suggest.
totally. And definitely take care of your ice removal out of your community. And sorry, this is kind of off key, but I have a really funny story about this. About this. And it's, if I would have had a camera, we could have won $10 million on America's Funniest Videos. It gives me the giggles to even think about it. So we get called to go into this community, and there's it's a sheet of ice in this community. The parking lot is, and it's kind of sloped down a little bit to the curb, and these vehicles are parked up against this curb, and this one particular vehicle, they want us to tow it for, I don't even remember why. And so it was a little like a Toyota pickup. And we back up, and we're in a flatbed, right? And this is like going back in the beginning of time. And when we get out of the tow truck, both me and my brother's with me, both me and him slip and fall on the ice right there, okay? And we're like, oh my hell, man, it's solid ice. And we go over and we hook to this car, and it is just on an ice rink. We winch it right on, no questions asked. And we get it fastened down, and all of a sudden we hear this big, deep voice like, hey, what are you doing? That's my car, And we turn, and it's this great big guy. And we're like, oh, hell, we're dead, And he comes, chest pushed out, and, and he comes strutting over. Well, he steps in the parking lot. Well, his feet come out from under him and lands boom, lands flat on his back. And you hear it knock the wind out of him, and we're like, oh my hell, that did not just happen. Are you okay, man? Oh, well, then he rolls over on his chest, and he gets up, and he comes trying to walk out further to us, to the truck, and the exact same thing happens again. Feet in the air, boom, on his back again. I'm like, man, you're going to die. Don't try. And he rolls over again on his belly, and it's like Bambi, that little deer, when he's on the ice. Well, he starts shaking, and his hands and his legs slip out from under him, and he lands on his belly. And because the parking lot is slanted, he slides down into the gutter. And my brother, he's kind of a funny guy. He's like, get your mind out of the gutter, man. Come on. And at this time, this guy is he's super embarrassed and halfway kind of laughing too, oh my hell, what's going on, Well, he gets up and he crawls over to the grass where the snow is, and he's like, I'll go get my money. Okay, we'll wait right here for you. Well, then he crawls inside, to go inside, and he gets his money. Well, he comes out, he slips and falls again. I'm like, dude, we're gonna call the ambulance to come and haul you out of here. And so we end up skating over to him to get his money, and we end up putting his car down and everything. But this guy was he had slipped and fell 4 or 5 times, all within 5 minutes time. And he's a big, huge, you can picture this. He's probably 6'4" and 300-pound guy, and yeah,
He had to have been so sore.
Yeah, totally.
Poor guy.
Not only his body, but his ego probably as well. But
Did you give him your entertainment discount? Because I'm sure you guys got a good laugh out of that.
I actually think that we didn't charge him. I'm like, dude, you've had a bad enough day.
You're gonna need that money for doctor's
you're
bills,
gonna
man.
need that to go, whatever. So yeah, that's brutal. That's probably the funniest thing I've ever witnessed in towing was that. We still talk about that to this day. Remember that guy that slipped and fell on the ice, and we're all permagrin. That's cool. No, so I don't know.
All right, we got to talk about our sponsor of the show. It's homesearch.com, your number one source for resale documents, FHA renewals, and reserve studies, instantly downloadable for your convenience. Homesearch.com, HOMECERTS.com. All right, we're going to get to the advice portion of the program now. Mary, what do you have for us about advice?
Well, one thing that I have been told works really well is when you are pulling into an area that you're unfamiliar with, especially, go ahead and take a photo of your signage at the entrance to the community. Make sure you read what it says, but also...
You mean don't just take a picture, you actually have to read it too?
You have to read it too.
Come on, Mary,
if you
geez.
read that information, take a picture before you park, then if you know that you're parked correctly and you do get towed for some reason, you have a way to back up your stance there on your parking. So along with being careful in the community, just make sure you know where you're going.
Just make sure you take a photograph. That way you'll know what's going on just in case you get towed.
Yes.
Okay. Excellent advice. Thanks, Mary.
What do you think about that advice? Take a picture.
That's great advice. Like, hopefully there's a sign
Yes.
to take a photo of.
So can you tow someone without there being a sign there? Doesn't there have to be like posted notice of what the rules are, what they're subject to by moving in? Or is
So the state's been heavily involved in all this lately, especially, but back in the day, you didn't have to have a parking sign, but it depended on, the situation. Obviously, if you pull into a private community, probably not a lot of towing going on without a sign. But some businesses would tow with no sign, where people were blocking their driveway or whatever, and so they would hook and haul. Then we get complaints all the time that, hey, there's no sign in here. Okay, well, we go out there and look. Oh, yeah, there's signs at every entrance. What did you miss? Yeah, there wasn't a sign where your car was parked, but
I missed the sign at the entrance. That's what I missed. I
yeah,
mean, come
that's
on.
exactly
Yeah,
it.
that's
Yeah.
exactly what I missed. Yeah.
When I was in college, I was living in a community, and there was a dirt spot off to the side of the community. It wasn't part of the community that we were living in, but cars had parked there for years. And there were signs that were there. And one night, there was like 20, 30 cars that got towed and booted.
Oh.
So they put boots on all of them first, and then they would come back and they started yanking them, but they secured them with the boot because they only had a couple trucks.
yeah.
And police got called. One of the officers looks at one of my buddies and he goes, hey, if there isn't a sign at that entrance over there, I'll tell him to drop all the cars. And he kind of looked at the rest of our friends. And he went, I think I need to run to my apartment really quick. He went to his garage, grabbed a sledgehammer, knocked the sign off the post.
Oh, no.
Came back and he goes, yeah, hey, I just double checked, Mr. Officer. There is no sign at that entrance. He goes, let me go take a look. Walks over there. There's no sign. Looks at the tower and goes, drop all the cars.
Wow.
So you're the prick.
I was saying it for a friend.
All right, we'll move on to the What the HOA portion of the program. It is my duty to tell the story today. All right, not duty. I love telling stories. Okay, here's the deal. A long time ago, I was an HOA property manager, and so one of the HOAs I was managing, they had this strict policy that you couldn't park any vehicle blocking the sidewalk overnight. So if you had some, a trailer that was too long and it spilled over the sidewalk or whatever, then they could tow it. So I get called the next morning and it turns out this big, huge, this monster trailer had been towed. And so I'm like, all right, well, what's the story with this thing? Because the family that got it towed is all up in arms. They're all crazy. They were moving into this community. They had just driven cross country. Well, not quite cross country, but they just driven from Texas. That night, they had parked it. It's like 11:30 at night, and they're just so tired. They're like, oh, let's just drop the trailer. This trailer had all of their household belongings in it. Everything that they owned is in this trailer. In fact, the tow truck driver was like, he was talking about how it was so heavy, he had to drive really, really slow because it was just, weighing him down or whatever. And so, they're having, they're wanting some leniency or whatever, because they're like, we just barely got here. You know, we have all our belongings in this trailer and everything like that. Nope, $250 cost them $250 just to be able to get their trailer back to their house and unload it in order to get that out. They appealed it to the HOA board, and the HOA board said, well, sorry, it's nothing we can do now because you've already paid the money. And so, you know, but
That's a
let
hard
that
one.
be a lesson to you, I guess, you know, whatever. That's why I say do your homework beforehand, at least read, you know, what the rules are. But I felt for him. I felt bad for him,
sure,
but as
yeah.
property manager, there was nothing really I could do about it. But that's just, you know, that's one of those stories that just, oh, man.
The
this
communities
sucks.
that we work, you know, like they'll usually give us a courtesy, like, hey, we're going to have someone on the road moving in or moving out at this time.
yeah.
Like, don't bother them. Okay, cool. And that's like fantastic
Yeah.
if they'll do that. So this doesn't happen
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, the tow guy's the prick.
Yeah, right.
You
sure,
know?
Sure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but he was just doing his job. He didn't know. Maybe it was just an enclosed trailer or
Right.
what, and it didn't say, you know, U-Haul on it or whatever, so they don't know.
Yeah, no, it didn't have U-Haul on it. It was just,
Yeah.
it was like
Just
a private trailer that they owned.
Okay.
Yep.
And that is great advice for homeowners. You know, if you do have a situation where you're going to be taking over some extra parking spots or needing to park a trailer overnight because you're moving in and out, there are situations where we're in a community that's small, that has limited parking, that we do need to have exceptions. Talk to your board, and the board can communicate that with the tow company so that you don't get into a situation like that, unfortunately.
Email is always great. Then
Yes.
it's time stamped. You can get a
Yes.
reply back. I'd email the
Totally.
tower, email your board, email your property manager, so
Yeah.
that you know. Like we say, if you can't show me in an email, it didn't happen. The
Right.
phone conversations
There you go.
don't always count.
Right.
Yeah.
I've even told people, like, if it's late, like, you know, midnight, and most people aren't up and you can't get a hold of anyone in your HOA, call the tow guy and say, hey, this is a situation. We're human. We get it. We're not going to bug you. But if it's there the next day and you didn't talk to your HOA or whatever, then there might be a problem. But if you're going to have an issue, call the tow guy and say, hey, this is what's going on. What's your thought or feeling or whatever? And without the HOA, if it's too late, we can figure it out as humans and adults. You know, that's my thought.
Spirit of the law.
Yeah,
That's right.
there you go. Yep.
Along the lines of letter of the law, if it says don't park on the grass, we had a situation where there was a vehicle that we got towed.
I think this has happened multiple times with the same vehicle too. At least that they were towed multiple times on different occasions.
Yeah, so we get a call and says, hey, there's a car that's parked on the grass. We call the tow company. Tow company comes out, tows the vehicle. The next morning, I get a furious homeowner, I believe, and his wife were calling us, screaming, why did my car get towed? I replied back and I said, you know, it was reported it was on the grass. Baloney. That's total baloney. I know that where it was parked, it was not parked on the grass. Emailed the towing company, said, hey, send me a picture of what it is. No joke, the front passenger side tire was about half an inch into the grass.
Oh,
Letter of the law, it was on the grass.
yeah.
It was not on the grass, Brian.
Yeah.
If you want to take
That's
a
a
guess,
bad
at
one.
whose-
It was not
if you wanna
on
take
the
a guess at
grass.
whose car it
How would you know
they
that,
were
It was
Jason?
sitting at
not
the
on the
table.
grass.
How would you know that?
That was your car?
That was my car. That was my car.
Please tell me it wasn't us that towed it.
It was.
It was.
Oh, even that.
It was. That's all right. I got it back. So I'm not mad.
You
So-
can call me a prick.
No. You were doing your job. It was the HOA board member who called that I had an issue with. So
I was going to say, there obviously is probably backstory there. That's, I mean,
well, yeah.
generally.
That's
It's our
Yes.
favorite story to tell.
That's
He loves
bad.
it
it
so
was
much.
not on the grass. I have photographic proof myself that it wasn't on the grass.
Whether it's a quarter of an inch
It was not on
or
the
10
grass.
feet, on the grass is on the grass.
It wasn't touching the grass. It was hovering over the top by half an inch.
Are we
not
going
touching
air
the grass.
boundaries though? If I draw a line straight up from the grass, is your tire going to hit it?
Look, this was not football. This was not breaking the plane of the
Is it-
goal line.
that's
not
a
exact-
yes or
not
no
what this
question.
Yeah.
is.
I would like a yes or a no, please. This is
It was not on the grass. That's the answer to
Guilty.
that question right there.
We are not talking about the first down.
That's right.
Yeah.
There are no chains that we're
Yeah.
bringing out to measure it. No, not on the grass.
that board member may have though.
We had one where a guy pulled on his front lawn up to the front patio on the grass. and then argued, I wasn't on the grass. Oh, really? Let's look at these pictures.
Another funny tow story that you are not aware of, or maybe you might remember this.
Okay.
Homeowner calls in, board member calls your company and says, hey, there's a car that's been parked on the street. It's been there for a couple days. You need to come hook it. I'm on the board. Towing company comes out, tows the vehicle. It had only been there for a couple of hours, and it was not a board member who called in.
Oh, no.
It was also the same car that was
on the grass.
No, it was a different car.
Different car,
The
same
car
owner.
was our black
Same
car.
owner.
The other, it was the same owner. Yeah, he called into the tow company and he said, "There's this car over here that's been sitting, and it needs to get towed." And he said, "And while you're at it, go ahead and tow that red car over there because that hasn't moved for a week." I had just driven it to work that morning. I was doing morning shift on the radio, and I had just driven it to work that morning and come home. I come out after a half an hour being in the house, and my car's gone. I'm like, "What? Where the hell's my car?" I was like, "What's going on?" So
and I take it that was probably a while ago, was it?
Couple years.
Yeah, it's been
Okay,
a
couple
few
years.
Yeah.
I was going to say,
Are any of these coming back to or remembering
well,
these?
now
I got it back.
we're
again,
much more
too.
organized as far as we have a list of who can authorize a tow and who can't. So whoever takes a call can punch it in or whatever and see who can authorize. So that doesn't happen.
That same guy has actually claimed to be on the board more than once.
Oh no,
for
one of
tows.
those guys.
Yeah,
You're gonna have to have code words.
Yeah.
We have some code words in some properties. Yeah, we're code talkers.
There you go.
Do you ever get that? People who are not authorized to call in a tow will call in a tow and have their neighbor or their friend or somebody they didn't like get
all
towed?
the time.
Oh.
Really?
Yeah, it's like tow wars, They towed my car, I'm going to have their car towed, that type thing. And
Oh,
then
boy.
we're stuck in the middle. Well, why did you come tow mine? You won't tow theirs. I have more information for that one than I did yours, And so, yeah, that does happen.
All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the HOA Show, but we've had so much stuff, so much fun with Scott here from Beehive Towing that we're going to have him come back. In the meantime, we want to hear from you. We want you to get in touch with us for any of your stories, any HOA stuff that you've got to talk to us. Kelsey, how can they find us?
You can actually email us at info@thehoashow.com or visit us online at thehoashow.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and you can find those links on our site.
Sweet. In the meantime, pray for no floods or fires, and we'll see you next time.
You can call me a prick. And my brother, he's kind of a funny guy. He's like, get your mind out of the gutter, man. What are you doing? That's my car.